Hello?
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Muted.
Purposefully, I have muted all the participants, so that would enable the administrator and the guest to talk. Just a quick update. Still, we have a few more minutes. And I don't want to see any of your videos. That's not the purpose of the call. It's going to be only audio. Also, purposefully, I have muted all of you so that we can talk and we can listen more from the guest. This helps us to cut down the background noise. And after the completion of the session, I will contact you. I can unmute you if you have got any specific question to ask. At the same time, you can reach me out on the chat window. You can send all your questions. By this way, we can I can ask all these questions to the guest. Hi, Jalpa. Can you hear us?
Yes, very much.
Thank you. Thanks for joining with us today.
You're welcome.
I'm going to allow a couple of more minutes. There are a few students who has got some technical difficulties to log in, so I'm going to wait for a few more minutes, if that's okay for you.
Yeah, no problem. We are waiting.
Ria is good as well?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Hi, Ria. Thanks.
Hi, thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm going to wait a few more minutes. There are some students who have got some technical difficulties. I'm helping them to join. So bear with us for a few more minutes, and then we can start the session. Just 2 more minutes. 8:05, I'm going to start the session. Okay, I think we can start the session. Let me check whether anyone has got any issue. Okay, hopefully everyone is able to log in. Okay, good evening, everyone. This is Nat Sundar. Very little details about myself. I'm a science enthusiast. I do arrange many sessions, something like this, career events, especially for GCSE and A-level students. And this time I want to give a try something a little bit different towards the preparation for GCSE. So when I contacted the forum, there were 2 participants. They are expressed interest. So on behalf of the GCSE Science Club community, I thank very much for Jalpa and Ria, and as well as we have got one more volunteer. I will introduce them later. So Ria is doing her A level. She has completed GCSE with 5s and 4 A stars. And thank you, Ria and Jalpa. Can you hear me, Jalpa? Sounds like we have some issue. Let me check. Okay.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello, we can hear you.
All
We
right.
were talking, but we were muted, so you all could not hear.
All right. Okay. Yeah. No worries. Sorry for that. Okay. So thank you. Thanks, Jalpa, for your time today. I really appreciate. It's not everyone who willing to spend their spare time. I'm sure you spend some time for us to help. That's really appreciated. So on behalf of the community,
Happy.
thank you very much. So whenever I had a chat with any students or the parents, it's always the parents are worried about GCSE. Most of the times I see could be exaggeration, that people are taking more issues on board and trying to complicate the nature. I feel it's maybe straightforward. So I want to have your view. So how was your journey? What you did? Can you walk through about your experience, please?
Yeah, so as you rightly said, I was also a little worried in the start when my daughter, when Ria was doing her, year 10. I was a little worried on what will be in GCSE. What is it going to be like? Um, yeah, how are we to approach it correctly, and how I can help her. These were two things that came to my mind. But as year 11 came, I realized that if you engage more with the school definitely, most probably, mostly all the schools will give you information. And if you also engage with the school proactively, then they should. So the teachers, the head teachers, they would come back to us whenever we had questions. Apart from other scheduled sessions, we could go and talk to them, and that's how I understood what exactly or what is closely required for GCSE. How many mocks would be there? What would be there in the mocks? And how to prepare, because our initial worry was, oh, we have to start when year 11 comes, we have to start solving the papers. And that's what Ria I asked Ria to do during her holidays between year 10 and year 11. And we realized that she could not attempt more than 50% of the questions, because in some subjects the portion has not been even done, like English and maths. The portions went on till almost till the end. So with connection with the teacher, we could understand this, and they explained why the portion has not been completed till the end. And that's how we realized it's not just the past papers, but basically making revision notes and keeping on top of whatever subjects and topics within those subjects are required, and whatever is finished, which will slowly take you there. So there was nothing to actually panic if we understand right from start and keep ourselves engaged with the school. Nat, are you there?
Sorry, I
No?
have muted myself. Thank you. Thanks for that, taking through a very simple journey. Want to understand, now in this forum, we have got year 11 students and parents, year 9, year 10 students and parents, and it's a combination of, it's a different group that I can see. So if someone want to start early, do you really advise, or do you see any timeline that's the appropriate time to start?
I definitely think the earlier you start, the better it is. But it's not something that you should stress about. I don't think it's completely necessary to start in year 9. So for me, in year 9, what I was doing is paying attention in lessons, doing all my homework. But to be honest, I didn't really do anything extra. We were given regular homework, so I did that. I did a little bit of revision. But I think you really, really need to start year 10. Even if you haven't started halfway through year 10 is fine. But I think you really need to start really in year 10, like really revising, say, at least an hour for a subject outside of school and outside of homework.
Yeah, thanks, Ria. This is what I thought. I think because of the news and different parents talking on different tangent and different dimension, I think it's a panic is creating, has been created in early years. Probably that can be avoided, as you correctly said. Start doing whatever you want on the appropriate levels, and when the year 10 comes, starts. Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you. So now what I can see, there are many subjects to crack in, and obviously every parent and every student want to get push themselves further and further and further. So I can always see there is a pressure, there is a time pressure. And if a student has to spend more time on one subject, for example, arts and craft, that does require quite a lot of time, like 2-3 days to prepare and submit your assignment. Obviously, within the time, you might have revised 2-3 subjects. So my question, how did you manage your time? What was your strategy? what was your practice? Would you like to
Yes.
share?
So initially, when I started, I was giving all my subjects equal times. And then I realized obviously I'm better at certain subjects and worse at certain subjects. So what I did was I prioritized. So I knew I recognized that I was worse at some subjects. So I put more time into those subjects. So I do more hours a week for that subject than the other subject. I also I like rated my subjects, my best subject to my least subject, and then I was more engaged in the subject I was worst at, and then I did less work for the subject I was best at. But that being said, I think if you do that, it's easy to focus on your worst subject, and then you end up doing really good at it. So I think you still need to remember, even though you're good at a subject, you still need to do that subject, but focus on your worst subject.
And also your red, amber, green on your units.
Sorry, Jalpa, there was some recommendation about red, amber. Can you explain that a bit more?
Yeah, so within each subject, I broke down the topics and wrote out the topics. Um, and then a topic that I was really good at, I started with green. And if I'm okay at it, then I colored it in amber. And if I didn't know the topic, I colored it in red. So that way I knew which topics I was worst at. So even within the subjects, I could go through and do my worst topics first.
Wow, that's a brilliant approach. A kind of a self-analysis or a self-study that would help you to streamline and manage your time effectively. Yeah, thank you. And now I can see there are so many parents, or as preparation for GCSE is hard, and slowly they want to cutting down on extracurricular activities and focusing only on studies, and revision. Is it the case, same in yours, or are you able to balance your time, like spend some time for your extracurricular activities, um, and also are you able to manage the studies? What was your...
Yeah, I think so. I did horse riding and taekwondo out of school. So I think doing extracurricular activities helped me in school because it was a way for me to relax, so I could manage it well. For some people, I think it does get hectic. So um, what I would advise is, if you are finding it too busy, maybe just take a break from it. But definitely, I don't think you should stop it, because I think it's good alongside studies to be doing something else that refreshes you.
I think I like your point. Of course, if we don't relax ourselves, we don't see our velocity. Are we running 20 miles per hour or 200 miles per hour? And obviously, if you go with a high velocity, you will not be able to realize the subject, and you don't understand the subject. You will be simply driving. And if you do a little bit of relaxation techniques, or the activity what you like the most, go for it, and that would help you to calm down, and then you can study productively, right, and effectively. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what happened with Ria, because only studying, what happens is, they at the end, say it's studying for multiple hours a day. At the end, the input is not much, so she can't put in much, and there is no output at all, which used to happen even though she did have a couple of other activities. So that balancing is very, very important. Just being with books probably will not help. So even if a student is finding it difficult, as Ria said, they can reduce the number of hours, but they should do something. That is our suggestion.
No, of course, of course. It's very, very common area where everyone misses out. Look, I've got 7 hours, and I'm going to spend 7 hours on studying. That's not going to happen effectively. Even if you can sit in the book, you can watch through many videos, revisions, and you're not going to grab it, right? If you don't grab it, you're not going to work it out. You're not going to present that on the exam. Yeah, that's very well said. Thank you. So there is a question from one of the student. Did you spend time on study in lunch, or is that not necessary? Do you really push yourself hard in the school? Look, this is a lunch hour. No, I'm not going to spend time on lunch. Do you spend that much serious in the school?
I only did that when I had my exams. If I had my exams, say, right after lunch, then I would spend lunch revising because I was really nervous. Um, I think that helps you be less nervous, but I only did that before a big exam or test. I never spent lunch studying if I didn't have like a big exam or test after. So yeah, I rarely did that. I only did that right towards the end at GCSEs. And year 9 and 10 definitely don't do that. I don't think it's necessary because you have lunch for lunch. And yeah, like I said, you need breaks and you've just been studying. So I don't think it's that necessary to study at lunch. Obviously, at the end in year 11, I did that sometimes. But yeah.
Oh yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Riya. Um, Now, this coming back to the revision. So we spend quite a lot on year 9, year 10, and slowly you improve your subject knowledge. You understand the basics. You are on top of your subject. Now, nearly in year 11, you will be focusing on revision, revision, revision. So, how was your revision was like? What did you do? What sort of path you went through? Have you got enough support from the school? This is a common complaint I do receive, where some schools, I think as you highlighted, your schools has supported very well in nature, and you worked, and you yourself and your mom has worked very well with you engaged with the teacher, you understand the journey, and then you take it back and then you work it through. So that is a relationship between you and your mom and the school and the teacher. So that we can see clearly that has contributed a lot for your journey. But however, this is not happening in all the schools though. There are some cases I can see there is a gap between the parents and the school, or parents and the teacher, or sometimes well, we can't blame the teacher and the school, but sometimes it happens that you get a teacher where he or she is not actually focusing on the subject, or we are losing that. There is a gap. So do you have any suggestion how can we bridge the gap, and what methodology you choose to top up your knowledge?
Yeah, so I revised by myself a lot for certain subjects my teachers were changing. So I revised using past papers that you can access online. There's free past papers online. And I also bought revision guides, which I think are really useful. Textbooks as well are useful. Um, in year 9 and 10, and some of year 11. Towards the end of year 11, I more started using revision guides, notes. That's another thing I would really strongly recommend to do in year 9 and 10, to make yourself notes on flashcards. So very concise notes that you can later use in year 11 for revision. Um, so yeah, past papers at the end of year 11 are really helpful. Like I said, you can get them online, and that really helps you to know what they're looking for in the exam, and as well as doing them, marking them, because you can get mark schemes. So I think it's really easy to get resources and revise by yourself if you're not getting that support from school.
Yeah, sure. So there are a few questions from the students. Also, I encourage everyone to use the chat window effectively. You can type and you can post your question on chat window. If you're not too sure where is the chat window, let me type hi, and you can respond to that. You can post your question. So I'll read one question at a time. So someone is asking, is it good to study with the friends, like what we call it as a group study? Have you ever tried that? Do you think that is a workable solution?
Yes, I think, yeah, I did a lot of group studying at school. It's really helpful to ask each other questions. That's something I did. And another thing I did was, when you explain something to your friend, that really helps you understand it. If you explain to them a topic or a question from start, that's really helpful. But you can also, I feel like you can sometimes get distracted when you're revising with your friends. So I think that's up to you. You need to decide if that's something that's going to help you, or if you're going to be distracted.
Oh, thank you. Um, And there is another question from the student. Do CGP revision guides have everything you need to know for GCSE, or have you used any other revision guides, for example, for a particular subject?
CGP guides are definitely good. I had a lot of CGP guides for science and a lot of other things. Certain subjects like English, uh, I I use CGP guides, and I used online resources, because for something like English, the more variety of knowledge and different opinions you have, the better. But for something that's black and white like science or maths, I use CGP guides. Um, but I think there's a website online called Seneca, which is also good. And bite size is also good. So yeah, depends on the subject.
Yeah, sure. And there's another question. How much time should you spend on optional subject?
On optional subjects, as in optional for GCSEs.
Yes.
So I spend, because it's going to give you a grade at the end, so the same amount of time exactly. There's no difference between the subjects. Between, like, say, obviously maths and English, you need to get a grade, otherwise you have to retake it. So yeah, but for me, I put the same effort into all of the subjects.
Okay, yep, that's great. Also, there's a question about how did you manage to revise English literature?
English literature. So I read summaries online of the text, because it's very easy to forget the text. So make sure you never forget the text or the story and the plot line. Make sure you know it off your head. So I read online summaries for that. Something I found challenging was remembering actual quotes. So what I did is, when choosing quotes, I tried to pick quotes that I could use for more than one theme or more than one question. That's something I was advised to do. Because if you use the same quotes in different questions of your paper, it doesn't actually matter, because different questions are marked by different examiners. So you can use the same 5 quotes in, say, one question, and then the next question, if they're relevant, obviously. So I tried to learn quotes that overlap between different themes. But yeah, I definitely, I'd say, learn a lot of quotes and know the plot summary of the whole novel. And I think that's it.
Okay, yeah, yes, thank you. Some of the students are really interested what subjects you pick it up for GCSE. Would you mind sharing those subjects?
Yeah, of course. So I had my compulsory subjects. Then I chose French, geography, business studies, and art.
That's
And obviously I had compulsory, like math, science, English language, literature, religious education was compulsory at my school. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, yeah, thanks. And what is your approach to revision for languages?
For languages, so I did French. So what I did for French was, the basics need to be really clear in your head. So tenses are really hard. So what I did, I made posters with mind maps on it. So in the middle of the mind map, I'd write the tense, like present tense, and then around it, I'd write how to form it, irregular verbs, everything to do with that. I just write on that poster. And then what I actually did was, I took the poster and I stuck them around my house, so that I could continuously look at them. Because French, when you look, I find that when you keep looking at words and vocabulary, you start to remember it. So I just put it around my house, and I kept looking at the tenses, and every morning I'd just read it. And if you keep doing that every single day, it goes into your brain, and it doesn't feel like you're spending that much time, revising it, but I think it goes into your brain. So that's something I did. Another thing I did was, I think when you're doing a language, just speaking that language with your classmate, or if you know someone who speaks that language, then that's even better. That helps like anything. Also, watching TV shows, listening to radio in that language is really good.
Um, Very well said, Ria. I really appreciate the point. There are two takeaways. Like, language is not like the other core subject, maths or science, that you can learn in over a period of time or one night. Maybe in maths can do, maybe science can be done, but language, no. Language is, as you exactly said, language is a culture. So you need to know the culture. That has to come slowly over a period of time. Exactly your technique about writing down something and stick it on a wall and look at it every day. That's a brilliant idea. So that would slowly get injected into your mind, and you see that becomes part of your life. That's a brilliant idea. Yeah, thank you. And any good resources for geography apart from that textbook?
For geography, I was mentioning website Seneca.
Seneca.
Because geography is one of the subjects where it's so content heavy. There's so much content in geography. So I think Seneca really helps you remember the content.
Oh, thank you. And have you used flashcards at all? Like I can see there are, wherever I go, I always see flashcards. Have you used? Do you think it's a good use of them?
Yeah, I think flashcards is really good. I think some people write the topic on one side and then they write the answer on the other side. I wrote a question, an exam style question on one side, and on the other side was the exam style answer. So I think that's another good method.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And is there any max revision book at all? Like a set of max question papers? I know you mentioned about past papers, but
Yeah.
how long you can go back? Maybe a couple of years, because specification has changed recently. So you can't go back. Literally, you don't want to confuse yourself with the old style specification. So apart from the past papers, have you ever managed to find some like set of question papers, practice questions, question banks, something like this, to practice you more and more?
Yeah, my maths teacher recommended a website to me. It's called Maths Genie.
Okay.
So just Maths, Genie, Maths Genie. There's another website called Revision Maths, and they just have questions, maths questions, like word problems. So I think they're really helpful. And past papers, I would say, maths is a subject that it's the questions vary, but they don't vary that much, because maths you can either be right or wrong. So I think it's good practice either way. Even if you do a past paper that's way far back, and the questions are worded slightly different, it's still good practice. But I also use the CGP maths textbook, which was really good.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Thank you. Okay, I think this is a question. This is my understanding about the question. So take an example of physics or chemistry. What you learn in textbooks is most likely the theory, and at the end of the textbook, you might have got one or two questions where you apply your knowledge and then you find out the answer. Mostly the application oriented. So those sort of questions, it may be available on textbooks, CGP, Collins, like one or two questions. So you can work it out, you can find the answer, and then you are comfortable with. But then when you go and appear for exam, the kind of questions what they ask in the exam is completely different. You can work it out. This is like same thing what you have learned in textbook, but you may not be able to apply. Have you come across those scenarios, and how did you overcome those scenarios?
Yeah, so to prepare for that, I think the more questions like that you do, like unexpected questions, exam style questions, you get used to applying your knowledge to a question that you've never seen before. but when you're actually in the exam and you think you don't know the answer or you can't apply it, then I think use process of elimination. Think about what's not the right answer, definitely, and then work around that.
Yeah, that's a brilliant idea. Obviously, you go down with your methodology, right, and the strategy to put it together and then come up with the solution that you can work it out. Yeah, brilliant. Thanks. Um, and another question: any suggestion to for relaxation technique during the exam time or exam season?
During the exam season, I think relaxation technique, I listen to music. I think for me that relaxed me. And I also think meditation is one that my mom suggests. I didn't meditate, but for some people that works. And I also try, I think eating a good breakfast is actually really relaxing. And the morning before an exam, I'd say, I know everyone will study the morning before exam, but if you have time, I think try to like calm yourself down, listen to music, talk to a friend or talk to a teacher if you're nervous, and I think that really relaxes for right before the exam.
I completely agree with your the last point. I can see more and more students are very nervous and they tend to read the book and the material and the revisions in the last minute. When they go and sit in the exam, think what they only remember, whatever they have revised in the last minute. And that's going to put more and more pressure. As you correctly said, whatever you learned last night, that's it, done, dusted. Stop whatever you are doing, just start to relax, prepare yourself. Look, whatever happens, you can work it out. Trust yourself, go with the confidence that you can do it. You already learned, you already completed many past papers, revision papers. You will be able to crack it. So go with the confidence. Don't put more pressure on yourself. Yeah, so that strategy definitely will work. Thanks. Yeah. Okay, so there is another question that some students they find hard to focus on one topic. So they start working out one topic and then they suddenly panic. Hey, by the way, I need to complete that, and then switch to another topic, spend 2 hours, and then panic, switch to another topic. It's all stressed out. So the question is, how can we focus on one subject, or when you revise, how can you focus on one subject and get it done?
That's a good question. I think to manage that, I think making to-do lists and, like I said, prioritizing is so important. So anything that you have due in the next day or something that you definitely need to get done without question, you start that first, and you don't switch topics until that's done. And it's hard to start with, but I think you just need to sit and finish it. And the more you start doing that, I think the easier it gets. So prioritizing is definitely a big one. And you can do other simple things like get someone in your family or tell your mom to hide all your other books, so that until you finish that, you can't physically move on to the next thing. So it forces you to finish it.
Yeah, that's a brilliant idea.
So I just would like to add here, I remember Ria also getting stressed about, oh, I haven't done the other thing. I still have to do the thing in geography. I have still to do something in physics while she's studying maths. So I think here is where parents can really help. So before they start, whether it is exam day or whether they are doing revision before, just before exams have started, the to-do list. So actually I had sat down with Ria, making her to-do list and seeing based on which exam is which day, and how she can arrange the topic subjects based on the timetable, but also within the subject where she feels weak, how to put it first in the to-do list. And then what we did is, that was a major to-do list and a timetable based on the schedule of the exam. What we also did is we put time for it, as in say today, Monday, these are the topics we are doing. This is the time we are going to spend. So we know definitely from morning 9 to 11, we are focusing on physics. We are finishing it, and we're not worrying about biology because we have kept time for biology at night 8 o'clock. And in between, we have maths. So that kind of help if parents give, and you need to revisit the allocation of time, because you will not always, so you have made a timetable, you may fall back. So you'll have to revisit. So we had been doing that continuously in the last 2 months, I think. And that really helped bring down her stress, because she was also getting panicked. I haven't finished this. What will I do? What will I do? But just putting it down on paper and revisiting it every time and reallocating new times have really helped the focus.
That's a very, very valid point. So we always come up with the schedule. We always come up with a plan, but 200% they won't go as per the plan, won't go as per the schedule. So we always need to be very, very pragmatic approach. Yes, we know we are not going to go down, but at least we aim to complete 100%, but at least we have completed 70, 60%, and then realign. That's a very, very
And
valid.
parents have to keep on reassuring the kids that you have done 80%. We'll do the 20% later, don't worry, because they just worry about 20 and they don't appreciate themselves for the 80% they've already done. So that reassurance parents have to give to the kids that you have done it.
Sure, thank you. And there's another question. How did you revise core practicals?
For science, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had notes in my book that I had written. Yeah, I revised it like any other thing, because obviously you don't have a chance to do it again at home. So I just went through the steps. So I'd explain it to someone else, and I said, this is what I do first, this is what I do second. And I just went through it almost like a story. And I also made sure I remembered the list of equipment. Another thing I know you have to remember is the risks. So what could go wrong and how to prevent them. So for me, I don't think that was particularly challenging. That's something that even if you're sitting in the exam, you can work it out. It's almost like common sense. So how I did that was, yeah, I just explained it to someone else. I think verbally I spoke about it, and I wrote it down. So that's another way that I did it. Like I wrote it down, then I turned the page over, I wrote it down again.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So this is another question. Do certain topics carry more weightage than other topics in a given subject?
Mm-hmm.
But you don't know that.
But
right?
we don't, yeah, we never know. We never know which topic there's going to be more questions on. I mean, some people guess, and they guess it right, but I don't think we ever get told.
Yeah, and it's a risky choice as well, right? So you assume based on past questions, this like for example, your teacher or someone is recommending, you don't need to concentrate more. And what happens on the exam? If it is other way around, then it's a risk, right? Yeah. So always better to prepare from the perspective that you don't care about this. So rather, I would say, rather than preparing for the exam, let's prepare for the life, right? So this is where you trying to understand the basics of everything, and then trying to learn the building blocks. So as you move along in your school career, A level and then uni, then this will be treated as a foundation. So why we need to choose skip any topic? Probably if it is feasible, let's not do it. Yeah, that's be my view as well.
Yes.
So the another question, how would you recommend staying motivated to study until the end of the exams?
Yeah,
this another interesting question, because of the stress, because of whatever it is, the amount of work, amount of revisions that you need to do, you always because of the stress and because of the other elements, that it's very difficult to motivated. So you allocated time, you have to learn something, some subject, you start learning, but then you are under stress, or maybe something you are not motivated, you're not going to grab in your mind. So what would, have you come across this scenario? What was your strategy?
I think goal setting is something that keeps you motivated, because sometimes you can get a little lost. So I think having a goal and working towards that goal, and also once you finish, you reach your target or your goal, I think rewarding yourself can help you keep motivated, because then you're motivated to do the next thing, or get an A on your next test so that you can reward yourself again. So that can be anything, going out with your friends, whatever you want to reward yourself with. But I think knowing that you have that relaxation time and that reward at the end of your revision, or at the end of your test, or the end of your exam, I think that's really motivating. So if you set small rewards throughout, then I think that really helps. Also, if you know you're going somewhere nice for the summer, that can be a motivation to do your best in your exams. So I think personal targets, personal goals, and rewards throughout.
Movie was a reward.
Yeah, sure. So this is another suggestion for the parents and the students. There is also a facility on Zoom, the application what I am using to log in. You can raise your hand, or I can also mute one of you, and probably I can ask them to engage now with Ria if you want to ask any specific question, if it is very difficult to type. So let me unmute Arun, Akash Arun.
Hello.
Do you have any questions?
So where can we get geography case study notes? Because it's a bit, there's like different schools do different case studies.
I think actually, some people sell their notes on Amazon. I wouldn't trust them 100% because you don't know the quality of the notes. And but I think that's where I think you need to make the notes at school. So while you're doing the case study or whatever, just I think make notes and use your notes, because I think that's the most reliable thing. Because as you said, different schools do different case studies.
You can also go to your teacher to get the notes corrected. You did that, right?
Yeah, so once you've made the notes, either ask your teacher to add to it or correct anything that's wrong. And my school actually uploaded all my lessons online. So some of the lessons I could see online. So I didn't make the notes in class, but I made case study notes at home, some of them. So for geography, I made case study notes at home. So I think you have to make them yourself if they're different to everyone else.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thanks, Sharon. So another question, Soheb. Soheb, can you hear us? Oops. Yeah, Soheb, would you like to ask any question? No? Saliha?
Yep.
So what's your question?
So I have a question about flashcards. So is it better to make your own flashcards or to like buy them off Amazon or like stores?
I think for subjects like English, things like that, I think you have to make them. I also think making them helps you understand them better, and I just trust my own flashcards more, because each individual school obviously has different portions. But I know a lot of my friends bought maths flashcards, not from Amazon, but from specific, I think, like maths revision companies, like actual teachers. They bought flashcards from them. So I think it's good for maths because maths, you can do equations on flashcards. So yeah, I think it depends on the subject.
Yeah, thank you. Maitri. Can you hear us, Maitri?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, you can ask your question.
Yeah. It's not really a question about specifically revision techniques, but I was wondering how important year 11 mocks actually are, because I have mine in like 2 weeks, so I want to know what they contribute to and how important they are.
So mocks, I think overall it's just a good practice for GCSEs. Overall, they're not that important. Even if you mess up in your mocks, I've seen people make a huge difference from their mock grade to their actual GCSE grade. It's because some people just didn't revise for their mocks. But so in that sense, I don't think mock grades are that important, but using them as a way to practice for your GCSE exams. So if you pretend they're your real exams, then it gives you a really good experience. You're less stressed when it comes to GCSEs because you've already done your mocks. Another thing is if you do well in your mocks, then I think it's a great confidence boost for you. So you feel better going into your GCSEs. But grade-wise for my school, for my last set of mocks, my grades determined whether I was going to go into the foundation tier or the higher tier for some subjects. So that way it was important to get certain grades. But apart from that, I don't think they're that important. You can definitely recover from them if you do bad, but I think you should treat them like your GCSEs.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so thank you. Thanks, Maitri. So I want to express my thanks a lot, Jalpa and Ria, for your time and effort, and you help us to understand whole end-to-end flow with very long, detailed explanation, and you have a lot of patience to hear from us on all the questions and from all the dimensions. So I take this opportunity to thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, still we have some more time. I would like to have a quick chat with our next guest, Lisa. Lisa, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, doing good. Thank you. Cheers. So Lisa is currently studying in Henita Barnett school, and she secured all 9 A's and A star in GCSE. So Lisa, do you like to share your journey on GCSE? I know everyone's story is different. We, as a human being, we are all different. I might be good at something. I might have some struggle to learn something new. So what's your journey? How was your experience? So what are the challenges you face, and how did you come across? Do you like, can you share this with us, please?
So I started GCSE preparation in year 10, not in year 9. I had a few subjects which I did struggle in, but I just basically spent more time for them, like do more exam questions from different websites. But I think like GCSEs aren't really that hard. I mean, I'm only saying that because I'm in A-levels now and it's way harder. But if you can manage your time properly, then yeah, I think it was quite fine, GCSEs.
And in terms of the preparation, you said you started in year 10.
Yeah.
So has your school helped a lot, or is it your own initiative? This is a common area that I come across, like the school is not helping. So the parent and the students are struggling. So how was it in your case?
So my school was quite supportive. So they made sure that they gave us loads of exam questions and regular tests, mock tests. But also I think like it's always really helpful to have good teachers, but like you should be self-motivated to study and like make sure you understand the topics, that you don't like really get, because the teacher can't really explain all the nitty-gritty details. So I use the specification, like for every subject, especially the sciences. I really went by every single line in the specification, and anything I don't understand, I would go to the teacher and ask.
The common other challenge, what I can see, okay, let me go through a particular specification on AQA, and sometimes even the specification is a bit vague. Well, AQA is sometimes is fine, and OCR and some EduQuest, they are literally, I don't know how they made up all the specifications. It's really vague in general. So unless you go through the textbook, you don't know what extent you need to learn. And again, if you go down to textbooks, some textbooks, they spend like 10 pages to explain about a topic. And other textbooks spend only 2 pages. So if your teacher is not giving correct steer, you are in the middle of nowhere, right? Am I going to spend 10 pages to learn that would take 2-3 days, or is it only learning 2 pages good? So if you are not getting a good help from your teacher, like, and where are we? How do you assess?
So
Come across this
that happened to me in GCSE. My physics teacher was, well, really not supportive.
Yep.
So he didn't go through the GCSE content most of the time. We had to do something called flip learning, where we would go home and learn the topic and come back into school. So for physics, which was kind of the subject which I had to put in like a lot more work, because I got chemistry and biology, I'm really strong in those.
Exactly.
But not that in physics. So what I did was, there's a website called My GCSE Science. So all the students out there, maybe ask your teachers, just buy it. You'll see 10 pages, 2 pages thing. I guess the specification, I really did go by the specification. It might look vague, but they will ask most of the things in the spec. They won't ask you anything out of the spec. So if you don't understand something, okay, yeah, do this. So if you don't understand
Lisa, can you
look at the 10th one? So just like, hello?
Yeah, sure. I can see there is one student who has got some question. Let me, hi Swapna, you can ask your question now. Swapna, are you there?
Hello?
Yeah, you can ask your question now.
So instead of preparing from year 10, how can you prepare from year 7?
Year 7, you should be, you shouldn't really be worrying about GCSEs right now. I really enjoyed year 7, 8, and 9. If you really want to do stuff, okay, just do your homework. Make sure you really understand whatever the teacher is speaking. Pay attention in class, ask loads of questions, engage in group work. But yeah, don't start GCSE revision. The spec might even change by the time you come to GCSEs. So yeah.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
very valid
thank you.
point, Lisa. The specification could change. Exam board, the school may decide different exam board, and based on the exam board, the preparation could also change. So yeah, that's very valid point. Thank you. Thanks, Swapna. So there is another question from Snigdha.
Hi. So in regards to tuition, when do you recommend we start going to tuitions, and where do you think we should go?
Sorry, I don't think it's quite appropriate or looking for any recommendation here. Probably I can reach out to Lisa and I can get you more details offline, if that's okay.
Thank you.
Anybody want to ask anything? Deepthi, do you have any question? You want to ask anything?
Yes. Is UCAS points really that helpful?
Sorry, can you say again?
Is UCAS points really that helpful?
Lisa.
Sorry, I'm unmuted by accident. Someone unmuted me.
Hi, Lisa. Can you hear us?
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, Deepthi. Would you like to ask your question again?
Okay, is UCAS points really that helpful?
The question is UCAS points. Is it really helpful?
It's really helpful, yes.
I didn't really hear your question.
UCAS points.
Hello?
Lisa, I think I can see there's some voices. Your voice is breaking. Can you hear us, Lisa?
Okay. Yeah. I've heard UCAS points.
Okay, yeah, just thank you. I'm just thinking about the time. I think nearly we come to the end of the session. Also, what I would do, I know there are so many parents with so many questions. There is a link. I have put together a simple form whereby you can ask more questions, which I have shared initially. You can ask your question. Also, if you wanted to leave any comment about this event, something like this, you can also share your comments about this sort of event. So it would help us to come up with a better version of this event next time. There is a facility on this form. You can also ask your questions. If I'm unable to work out with the guests this time, probably I can reach out to them offline and I can bring all your questions and I can give answer for all your questions later point in time. Also, it's an opportunity for you to share your views about these sessions. This will help me to set up more sessions, something like this, that would be beneficial for you and for everyone. So I, again, take this opportunity to thank Ria and Jalpa and Lisa for spending their personal time and their effort, their interest, and their commitment towards this session. This is very, very helpful. I think I can see there are more parents are saying the same comments. This sort of information is not at all available and no one is happy to share this kind of information. So we are all, thank you. We express our great attitude towards your help. That's really appreciated. So thank you. Thanks everyone. Have a great day. We'll see you again in a session, something like this.
Yeah.
Bye, Lisa. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, that's all right.
Hi, Jalpa.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jalpa, and as well as for Ria as well. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Okay, so that's the end of this session today. I'll wait to hear from your comments and your questions in the link what I've shared, and then I will share it in the form, in the forum. Thank you. Thanks very much. Have a great evening and enjoy your term holidays. Talk to you later.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.